So word. Okay, so again, we will have people joining in to watch this who who were not able to attend today. So I'd like to welcome everyone who's present and also everyone who is watching this at a later date. So this is our practice group facilitator training, 101, the basics. And today's agenda is the first part. I'm planning we'll go for about 2 hours. And the first part is everything you need to know to be a facilitator. And then part 2 is actually running the system, the mechanics of the system. And unfortunately, since we do this over the phone or using our computers, the facilitators will need to have an internet connection and be on the computer as well as on their phone. And I say what I was about to say with starting off with the word unfortunately is unfortunately the technology part is something that needs to be mastered and dealt with. And you never know when there's going to be some glitch there. Now let me see what is going on. And okay, it looked like now this is something that could happen on the Maestro conference system that I'll talk about, but in this case I started to hear an echo. And one of the things I've learned from operating many different platforms, whether it's Maestro conference or this platform, or some of you may have used GoToMeeting before or WebEx, one thing that happens is someone will occasionally have something going on at home on their computer and it creates an echo for the whole class. And so the first thing I know to do now is no matter what platform I'm using, I go and look at participants and I look for either who's not muted or who sometimes there'll be the microphone will flash when someone's talking or when there's some background noise. On Maestro Conference that will happen, so you can sometimes troubleshoot where the noise is coming from. So that's what I just did here, and it looked like we were okay. I'd like to welcome a couple other people just calling on, and we're just getting started here. So just asking people to mute themselves. The mute button is next to your name, and just shout out if you can't find that. And okay, so once again, for those joining in, we are going to do 2 parts. The first part will be discussing how to run a group, the different parts of a group, how to hold yourself, your own space in a group, how to troubleshoot, deal with different personalities and the needs of the different participants. We're going to cover all that in the first part, and then the second part will be the technological part. I understand that some people are calling in and joining us here today or afterwards listening who are very interested in being a facilitator for the practice groups. Others are not so sure or know that it's not really for you at this time, but you are still curious. So everyone is welcome. By the end of class, what I'll do is I'll ask those who are really quite sure they'd like to participate. And that being said, I understand that things change in people's lives and you never know until you really try something for a little bit if it's going to be for you. So even saying, okay, people that are most likely going to want to do this, I want you guys to stay on the call for a couple of minutes so we could discuss logistics in the next couple weeks. That being said, I understand that any one of you could join in 1 time, 2 times, and just be like, this isn't for me, or something comes up and it's not going to work. Of course, once we get started, as much as someone, what I'll do is designate certain days of the month and we'll get this all worked out. So whoever would like to participate can. We'll get a schedule and I'll ask people to commit as much as they can. But again, knowing that things can change. And until you do it, you just don't know. Okay, so with that, we will, and what I was saying about the technology part is it's not that hard. It can just, some people will find it really easy. Some people obviously will have a harder time with that. That doesn't mean that they shouldn't still stick in there and learn. It's always a little bit of frustration involved with the learning curve. And I will just say that you guys will have to expect that there's going to be some glitches here or there, some maybe mistakes here or there that you run into as you're operating the system. All of that is just going to be part of this, especially with a bunch of new people coming in. And this is a good time to be doing this because we're in between my semesters with new students coming in. So the new students really won't be joining in for probably another 6 weeks or so. So the people that are already coming into the practice groups, as far as the readers, are already at a certain level where they're not brand new or they're not needing extra hand holding or guidance or things like that. So it's a great time for facilitators to come in. Unfortunately, one of our morning facilitator, Iris, she's for the most part going to be moving on to other things. She's been facilitating for a very long time in the mornings. Before her, we had another facilitator for most mornings, a good friend of mine, Michelle Schultz, who did the practice groups for well over a year. And once you've been doing them for a while, especially every week, it gets to be a little bit tedious, I would say. So Iris is moving on to other things, and I wanted to open this up so that it would give people an opportunity to see what it's like to facilitate a practice group, which is really a component of teaching a psychic class as well. Any psychic class, there's going to be practice situations, whether it's the kind of class that I teach or a different type of modality, but any kind of psychic development class should have practice. And if it's done within a group setting, there's a certain things you can do to facilitate that process. And what I'm teaching you here is really what I've come up with. I wasn't given formal training in how to lead a group, but I was able to kind of figure out some things myself. And some of my early training also helped just observing what was going on within other groups. And some of the ways I've learned is to be in groups run by facilitators who were doing some rather annoying things. And so that also enters into this. You know, there's been a couple other psychic institutes where I wanted to go through their classes, and I loved hearing like what the main teacher had to say. But then when we got into practicing, the facilitators were so disruptive, and I'll get into why that is and what they were trying to achieve, because what they were trying to achieve was actually what I'd like you guys to work on as facilitators, but they were way too intrusive. And so I'll talk about how to not do that. So what I want to do here is start off with what are the overall goals of the practice groups. And the overall goal is to create a safe, supportive environment in which the students can practice. That's the overall goal first and foremost. We have volunteers coming in, and there's some really great things about that. One is that they give the students someone to practice on that's not just a student, as they may have only done in level 1 class, but they get someone from the public to come in who doesn't understand a lot of times the protocols they're using. They're new to these things. That could be anybody with any kind of issue, personality, background, level of understanding. So these are the people you're going to encounter when you go out to practice on your own. So it's great to be able, I see the practice groups as a transition point. Although some people choose to keep practicing within them even when they're out there practicing professionally, because it gives them time to really get the extra support and be able to practice, try out different things without feeling the stress that one might feel when they're just doing readings professionally. So the other thing is it gives people a chance to get readings, to experience what is this like to get a reading from other students. They when someone receives a reading, they're getting to some insight into the training process. Even though you're not talking about the training, they're getting to observe what the students are doing, how they're syncing up, how they're all reading as a group as a whole. Most people don't know anything about the process that we do in these classes or types of classes. And so they get educated. If nothing else, if they came in for a reading and they didn't even get any information or correct information, or just anything at all, healing, I mean, they get all these things. Every time someone comes in, they get information, they get healing, they have some kind of transformation experience, which is great. But even if they didn't have that, at the very least, they get to witness what types of activities and behaviors go on in a practice group. So there's always some kind of value. But as most, if not all of you know, a lot of you have received readings from the practice groups. If you haven't, I would say get yourself on the schedule. I have a calendar, and I can show you where that is, but on my website, you can go and sign up for a reading yourself, and it's very important to know to do that so you can have compassion and empathy for what it's like for the student, or I'm sorry, for the volunteer coming in. So they get to benefit. Most of the people who volunteer to join in as a volunteer to be read, most of them are not paying anything. On my website, I have where they can make a $25 donation if they would like to. I would say maybe like 1 out of 10 people will make a donation, if even that. It's been quite a while since anybody did, and I don't require them to by any means, and I don't keep track of it or anything like that. So so they're coming in to where they can get a free reading, and a lot of times I'll have people contact me who are in need of help, but they can't afford a professional level reading. And there are also people that I feel like would be a good person to for the people to get some experience practicing on. So that's who's coming in. And it's not like I screen the volunteers first. People in the public can go right to my website. They get themselves on the calendar. The only contact I'll have will be to just check in to make sure they're going to show up. So I'll talk a bit more later on about the level of contact you might have with a volunteer as a facilitator before or after. It'll either won't be or would be very, very little. I'll talk about that later. But just want you to know as facilitators that the volunteers, they could just be anybody. Okay, so, but your number one allegiance is to the students. And I say that because in here I wrote, don't forget to pee, just trying to be funny there, but don't forget the pee in practice. And we're practicing here. This is not a professional reading space. So the level of expectation is not the same. If it takes a while to get set up, if you need to have more breaks, I'll talk about taking breaks with the group, not where you take a break and go have lunch, but where you take an energy break and lead everyone through a short meditation, like a minute-long exercise, or just time for them to tune in and check in with themselves. We'll talk about that in a little bit, how to do that. But you might not do that as much in a professional reading. The level of expectation is lower. So that means that if there's a new student and the most they can do is get a color or a simple image, and there's no meaning behind the image, but just encouraging them to say anything at all, that's what we're going for. If in a professional reading, if all I did was just talk about things here or there and didn't draw more meaning from it, they would be disappointed by the end if it didn't connect up with their life. In a practice group, while while you want everyone to be able to do their best, and because we have all different levels, even levels within the people just in the level 1 class, it's never an issue where no one is giving information of a higher level. But just saying, even if it was completely where you might remember back to our level 1 class, like the first couple readings we did, and some of them, the information was not that high of a level. So if that's all that happened and all the people were doing was describing an image here or there, a color or something like that, and it was going really slow, that's totally fine, because that's where the new students are at. And so as a facilitator, you have to be okay with that. And the person coming in, now I've explained it on my webpage that, and also in what would you call it, follow-up email, when they schedule on the calendar, they get an email giving them instructions of how to get on the call. And I remind them this too, that this is students. These are not professionals. If they want readings from professionals, they can pay for a professional reading, and then there'll be a different set of expectations. Although, as you guys have heard me say ultimately, once you've got practice under your belt, the level, we're always doing a good job reading, and just because someone has expectations doesn't mean we're going to be able to do a better job. In fact, that might get in the way. But the other thing is that being said, it's not that when the volunteer comes in, it is important. You're going to be doing a lot of different multitasking as a facilitator. And one of the things you want to do is make the volunteer, or do what you can to help the volunteer feel comfortable. So we can talk about that too a little bit later. How do you make the volunteer feel comfortable? Actually, I'll talk about that right now before getting into dealing with the students. So a volunteer, well, you know what, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm going to wait, because I'm going to break down step by step what you're going to do in the practice groups. So I'll wait till I get to the point where the volunteer shows up, and then I'll talk about the ways you can make them feel comfortable. So you don't want to isolate them, or you don't alienate them, or have them come in and act like you don't care about them. It's just, I'm saying this because I've noticed a tendency, especially this can happen as the readers, all of the readers' levels are going up, and especially after, let's say, some volunteers have been extremely pleased and excited with their readings, and this will happen where they're just so happy with their readings, and even after they send emails and say how wonderful it was. Anytime someone gives positive feedback, that can set up expectations, and expectations create pressure, and they cause us to alter our behavior. So what I've noticed is this trend with facilitators, not all of them, but some of them over the years, and I've worked with many, is the facilitators want to then make sure that everyone is having that same level of experience that those other volunteers had. And that's where they'll kind of forget the mandate that even that this is a practice space, and that the most important people, this is my feeling, is that the people who need the practice group the most are the beginners. That being said, the people that are way more experienced are getting certain things that are very valuable to them. But as a facilitator, I want you guys to know that your first job is to make sure that the beginning students are in a space where they have permission to experiment and play and not feel pressure. They're going to feel pressure naturally because they're working with more advanced people. But if you are focused on, I want the volunteer to have this amazing, incredible experience, then you're going to be more likely to allow for the more advanced people to talk more, to talk for maybe longer periods of time, you're going to be less inclined to allow for or make sure that the beginners have that extra space to go at their slower pace. So that's why I'm talking about this now. The end goal does have an impact on your own, how you position yourself or how you manage the different people in the group. So beginners, their needs are more important than the more experienced people. Okay, so what is being practiced? So level 1 and 2, and can you guys all see my screen? I just want to make sure.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So level 1 and 2 techniques and concepts is what is being practiced in these practice groups. So only those who have graduated from a level 1 class or are currently in the class and approved by me, meaning those who, I'm going to be starting a new semester of classes at the end of this month. Usually I don't invite them to go into the practice groups until about anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks once the class starts. At that point, and I want them to have had a couple readings as a group with me before I unleash them into the practice groups. So that means they'll all have had a little bit of experience reading as a group, learning how to match with each other, understanding the concepts of reading within a space of communication instead of competition. So they will have already had a little bit of that at least. The other people can join in, as you guys probably all know this, if they're not in a class, but they've just graduated at least from level 1. Now, occasionally someone went through level 1 and maybe didn't attend all the classes or listen to all the recordings and had a tendency to fall asleep or something. So every once in a while, and maybe this was a long time ago and now they're joining back in the practice group. So they may be a little out of sync with the group. They might be evident, showing some types of actions that we'll be talking about in a little bit, things that they need to kind of make adjustments for. They may have some holes in their training, and that might lead to some, what I might call some, I don't want to say bad habits, but habits that aren't as conducive to their practice and the overall group practice. I'm going to get to discussing how to handle different situations in a little while. But if you, as a facilitator, ever find that there's just someone where you're like, have they really, they seem to be out of sync as far as understanding what's going on here, you could just make a note of their name and get in touch with me so I can make sure they have gone through a class and things like that. Every once in a while someone finds their way into the group, even though they're I have the rules out there and everything. So just know they're supposed to have at least be in a level 1 class or have gone through it. Occasionally I'll allow for someone, if they went through a full clairvoyant program or a good part of one elsewhere where they're using some similar techniques and they have experience reading within a group. Some of the core techniques come from, they could be considered BPI style techniques that were initially developed by Louis Boswick and taught at the Berkeley Psychic Institute. So as you go along, occasionally just, in your everyday life, you may run into people who kind of seem to have the similar techniques, because there's kind of a core learning here that's also taught at other institutes. And so occasionally someone will want to practice in our practice groups who went through one of those, and they'll join in, and usually they are able to work alongside my own students very well. Okay, so people can be creative, but this isn't a place for people to be doing tarot card readings, astrology charts. They shouldn't be Googling things or using other tools. This is a place to practice being in an inward meditative space, a clairvoyant space, even though I hesitate a little bit with saying just clairvoyance, because of course, as you know, all your abilities are allowed. But when you're in a clairvoyant space, you're more likely to be in a psychic space instead of some other kind of space, because it's very hard to be focused on visuals and also be doing other things. Now, what will happen, as you've seen with yourself, and as happens to me all the time as well, is we fall out of that space throughout a reading. We're in it and then we fall out of it. When we fall out of it, we either can get back in right away. We might just naturally go back in, or we might say, oh, I'm no longer in this clairvoyant space. I need to go back into it. And I'm kind of using interchange, I'm saying clairvoyant, but a meditative, inwardly focused space, as opposed to going into another space, which is figuring things out, analyzing, teaching, healing, and I'll get to how to work with healing in the practice groups, but advice giving, lecturing, figuring things out, things like that. So what will happen, and I've been noticing this lately in the practice groups, in the morning practice groups, it's happened a little bit, and in the evening, I heard not a lot in either one, but where some students will start to pull tarot cards, or they'll Google some impression they got. Now, I certainly understand in this day and age, we're so used to just going to the computer to get any information. That's me. I think of the computer as the third lobe of my brain. So I understand this. And I've been in readings where I was inclined to leave my space and go start to look something up. But that urge needs to be resisted, because that's not what we're doing here. You know, when you're all done with the reading, let's say you got some kind of medical, something about anatomy or an illness or something, when you're all done with the practice group, it's over, you guys have gone your own ways, feel free, you can Google whatever you want, but don't use your psychic space, don't use the time to fall out of it and start going to figure things out, because that's not what you're here for. You're actually here to see, oh, if I get an impression, can I stay composed enough? Can I stay composed enough to actually stay in this space and probe it more and get more information? So as facilitators, one of the things I want to impress here is that part of your job is to look out for and I don't want to say look out, but if you just find that one of the students is, says, oh, I'm looking at my tarot cards right now, or, oh, I'm going to Google this, or I just Googled this, then I'd like you to gently remind them, or the group as a whole. And maybe what you could do is, at the very start of the group, you can bring this, just remind people of the rules that they shouldn't be doing those things. Instead, what they should be doing, if they work with tarot cards, is ask their clairvoyants to show them a tarot card that applies to this particular person. Or someone involved in astrology, ask them to see a symbol from astrology, or however their clairvoyance can show them. They can play around with those. And like I said, that's being creative. We didn't work on that in most of my classes. It's occasionally we'll play around with things like this, but it's been a while. It's been a little while. So, that would be something that we haven't exactly had a class on, how to draw tarot cards clairvoyantly. But if that's a clairvoyant, that would be, you already know how to see clairvoyant images. That would fall within the realm of the type of work we're doing, to see what kind of images you could get. So just keeping to, again, it doesn't have to be exactly the technique that I've taught. We were in class, was it yesterday or the day before, Jean-Marie had a couple great visuals she came up with when I presented some different scenarios of how a person might read. And they were things I hadn't quite thought of. They were just little variations of working with the flower or other things I had suggested. And they were great suggestions. And those would be perfectly permissible to play around with in a practice group. But that's very different than, you know, say getting out, you know, your tools, whether the tarot cards, the runes, the pendulum. And I am in no way saying that those tools aren't valid. I use them too in different scenarios, but in the practice groups, we're there to practice what's going on in level 1 and level 2. So you might at times just need to let your people know that. The other thing to keep in mind is that recordings are not available to anybody, to volunteers. Usually that's who would want them, but these calls are, I really think of these in a sense almost as a therapy group. I mean, we're not doing therapy, but we're going along the lines of the ethics that would go into a therapy group. So you don't want to, and part of the practice group you'll see here when I go through the structure is having a discussion at the end. Now, I'm not sure, if in all the groups that you guys have attended, there's always been time. But one of the things I wanted to stress here with what I'm sharing is that I do want you guys to follow the format that I'm going to be giving you here. So at the end of the time together, I want you to save time so that you can process the reading with everybody, find out how it was for them, if there was anything particular they struggled with or had a hard time with, or, you know, really enjoyed. The discussion section isn't just to say, oh, you know, I loved my teacher or I love my facilitator, or only positives. You know, if a student struggled during the group, then during the reading, maybe a lot of other people struggled because of the same energy. And that's a great time for that to come up, because that's more time for people to see it wasn't just them, whatever they were going through. So that discussion is going to be real important. And because of that, sometimes things are said about the volunteer, like, oh yeah, that, you know, the volunteer didn't quite understand what we were saying, or, you know, oh, the volunteer was, you know, particularly enlightened or particularly stuck or stubborn, or, you know, it's not just bad things, but we want the students to feel free to process after the reading. Hang on just one second here. Sorry, I just needed to take a drink here. So, and you don't know what's going to be said before the reading as well, because the volunteer will come in about 15 minutes into the call. Again, I'll go over the structure in just a couple of minutes. But so maybe some personal things are said. Occasionally the facilitator may know a little bit about the volunteer and might say something. So it's just important to never, if you have a volunteer who says, oh, can I get a recording, never say yes. They will just not be available. Okay, and then multitasking abilities are required. So you're operating on a physical level, you're running the system, you're moving everyone through the reading structure. There's a beginning before the reading, there's wrapping up the reading, there's the ending, clearing space, and facilitating space. Those are all the physicalities. Energetically, you're creating and holding the space emotionally and spiritually, and I want to make sure we have time to go over that. And you are also having a chance to be the crown to be psychic and to be the crown chakra. And I'm going to go over what those things mean as well. I think what I want to do first is go over that structure I've been talking about first, and then go more into what it means to hold your space and how to be psychic in as a facilitator. Okay, so the group structure, the practice group should not be more than 2 hours. Some facilitators tend to go, like the evening ones, I think they tend to be done in an hour and a half. And doing things in a concise manner is a skill that not everybody has. So one of my evening facilitators, Deborah, who's taking a break now, her son has been living in Japan, and she hasn't seen him in a long time, so she went over there to be able to hang out with him and work. So she's on break for a few months. I'm not sure for how long, but she's been a facilitator for a long time. But she's also been a therapist and counselor for decades. And she is very good at setting boundaries as far as time and things like that. So she had the group very tight. Other facilitators don't find that as easy, including myself. So it is a skill, but it's something where you want to make sure what you might need to do to make sure you have time at the end is to make sure you're cutting the reading. Like you might have the reading be a bit shorter, and then once you get used to facilitating, you could let the reading go a little bit longer. But it's going to take a little bit of trial and error to see what works. Like, should I let the reading be 45 minutes or an hour? Sometimes it depends how many people are in the group, things like that. If there's more people, it's going to take more discussion time at the end. So part one is you open the system up, you arrive, I'd say arrive, especially when you first get started, like maybe a few minutes, at least 5 minutes before it gets started, maybe a little sooner for the first couple times. But you open up the system and you say hello to everybody, acknowledge who's there, you let them know. You might check to see, is there anyone new? And just get a feel for it. You could just ask people if you don't recognize who they are. You could just say, like, can you just say, like, what classes you've had, or have you practiced in here before, just to get a little bit of background of who the people are in the group. And if anyone says they're brand new, then you might want to go over the structure of how things are going to run that day. If they've all been in there before, not so necessary. But you want to make sure you leave time for an opening meditation before the volunteer gets there. The volunteer is told to call in 15 minutes after the hour. If, let's say, they call in and you're still in the meditation, not a problem. You're going to see their name appear on the system, which I'll show you later. When you see their name appear, you can say quietly, so you don't take your people out of meditation, we're still doing our meditation to get ready, and if you don't mind hanging out here for a few minutes, we'll be with you as soon as we're done. You can even follow along if you want, or just relax. We're finishing up and then we'll be with you. So that's fine too, because sometimes the volunteers will call in earlier, and even though you told them not to, they've been told not to. So, they're just anxious about not wanting to be late. And a lot of people think that, oh, it's good to show up early, but in this case, not always so. But anyway, so you can be leading the people through meditation, the students through meditation, and not feeling like you have to rush because the volunteer is there. So that's how you'd handle that. But so then once the volunteer is there, you greet them, you let them know what to expect. The general format would be that you would have them let the students just start to read them before questions, and then you'll save some time towards the end to answer any of their questions. There could be some exception to this. Maybe if I already know they have something really specific or a certain issue, I might let the facilitator know that, and then we could talk about how you might approach that. Like if I say, oh, I know this person, they really needed help with this, you know, could you make sure you guys focus on this sooner? I might do that, but again, a lot of times I'm not so involved with who it is. So you'll see how it goes. You can maybe say for the first 20 minutes, you're just going to let the students see what comes up, and then go into their questions. Sometimes at 20 minutes, they're just like, oh, you guys are doing great, continue. Or they may have a question about something that was already said. But I think it's really great practice to just read someone without their questions, because their questions sometimes gives you too much front loading. So just start off reading. If it's going to be a 45-minute reading, then you could just let the students go for like 25 minutes and then get to their questions. Just maybe split the time in half, something like that. And then they can only really have a couple questions. You know, if they start to rattle off way too many questions, then it's going to be up for you to say, okay, pick your top two. Or it sounds like these are all around this theme. Let's look at this. How about if we look at your career? So you're going to help the volunteer to formulate their question, or sometimes direct the students on, okay, let's, they have like 5 questions about their career. So why don't we all put up a flower to represent their career right now? So you can do that. So once the reading is over, you give time for feedback. That's very important. And with the feedback, you want to make sure that they, if they're willing to. Now, sometimes the person is overwhelmed. They're not sure what to say. They're shy. They're embarrassed. They could barely talk. They're overwhelmed. And so they may not have a whole lot to say. Now, if they're indicating that they really don't have a whole lot to say, you might be able to ask them a question or two as a facilitator to kind of draw out a bit more. But if they're giving indications that they just want to get off the call, or they just don't want to respond, or something like that, then just let them go. Most of the time people will give feedback. And one thing you can do is at the start of the reading, you can let them know that it's helpful if, for the most part, they sit and listen during the reading, and then at the end they can give feedback. And if they'd like to, they could take notes and give feedback at the end. There'll be time for that. So if you set that up even before the reading to let them know that, one, it lets them know to not be conversing throughout the whole reading. And then secondly, it lets them know that that's going to be appreciated. And then you're more likely at the end to get feedback when you say, okay, now we have time for feedback. You can say things like, feel free to be as detailed as you'd like with your feedback to the students. So that would be pretty much how to handle that. And then once they give feedback, you invite them to go. So they don't stay the whole time on the call. You say goodbye to them and you watch their name disappear from your screen. And that will be, so then you guys can freely discuss what just occurred. And then after that, you could do an ending meditation with the group, just short ending meditation to just help the people call their energy back, release anything that got built up in themselves. That they already have those tools, so you could just pick a couple things to help them call their energy back and let go of anything they're ready to release. And then you can spend some time processing with them. So that's the overall structure. And does anyone have any questions about the structure itself at this point? If you do, just you can speak up, unmute yourself and speak up.
Deborah, this is Jean-Marie.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if, and maybe you give this to us later in the presentation, but do you have, and I know that there would be variances on this, but do you have sort of a sample schedule that would start with, 0, 0, the first moments, the first few seconds, and then kind of going through, because I was sort of trying to do that for myself. And so I had like, okay, 15 minutes in, the volunteer shows up, 20 minutes sort of showing the general reading and where the how long the feedback. I just, do you have like a sample schedule?
I don't. I can write one up. Um, if you have 2 hours, I'll be happy to write one up. Or if you started one, if you want to email me what you started, and I can fill it in, and provide that. This is just pretty much the list that I came up with. I would say, so I'd be happy to do that. The key will be the reading. Like, you want to have at least 45 minutes for the reading. And so you have 15 minutes before the volunteer comes, and the reading's going to be, say, 45 minutes to an hour. So then that would leave the rest of the time to wrap things up. So that's pretty much how I think of it. But I'm happy to create another slide or document like that.
Yeah, thanks. I'll email you. Thank you.
Okay.
Deborah, this is Darcy. Sorry, real quick. I wanted to know, and maybe you mentioned this, I came in late, sorry. Is there any way that we could actually get this Word document or a PowerPoint presentation that you have emailed to us as well, just as a or overlay format that you use?
Sure, I'll do that. No problem.
Great, thank you.
And I can stick the slide with breaking the time down in here as well before I send it out.
Oh, that would be great. Thank you.
And I might add a couple more slides after, depending on how our conversation goes here. So, okay, so then.
Deborah, this is Yeti. I have a very quick question just to clarify the length of the practice group. I know on the slide it says 2 hours max. And I know with Iris, the reading itself was 2 hours, and then the briefing was 30 minutes right after the 2 hours. So if I hear you correctly, you would prefer the reading like all together with everything hour and a half, and so that even with the briefing it ends at 2 hours. Is that correct?
Yes, the whole experience from start to finish, from the time everyone gets on the call to the time they hang up, really try to keep it to 2 hours. The groups were just going too long for people. And so, again, some of it is like a person's personal style, but what I'm trying to do is kind of rein in. What happens when you've had some facilitators that have been doing things for a long time, they just kind of get into a certain mode. And I hadn't really done training in a while to, express what I thought would be a structure that would fit with the time that I know that people have. So I started to get some feedback that the groups were going on too long. So I want to keep them to just 2 hours, and that way more people can participate. And we don't, there's ways to do. Part of what I think was also happening is that sometimes if you have too many readers, and I'll talk about this when I get to breaking into groups, but actually I can talk about this now. You don't want to have too many readers reading all together unless they're brand new. If they're totally brand new, then that's okay the first couple times, but otherwise the people don't get a chance to practice. So it's going to be important that that the facilitators are able to break the people up into 2 groups. This is, when you break them up into groups, it creates a whole new level of stress for yourself. So one of the things that I'm going to recommend is if we have enough people that want to facilitate, is start off with a facilitator team. And I'll talk about how to do that as a team. But breaking the groups into 2 groups, so there's not a whole bunch of people at once, is going to help make this go faster. Now, that being said, to the 2 hours, like, is something terrible going to happen if it goes over 2 hours? No. But one of the things I've found, because I'm guilty of this too, and I'm still trying, like I said, my time management, especially when it gets to this work, is not very good. And, my natural inclination will be, well, if we're learning stuff or having fun, who cares? But someone else's natural inclination is, no, I told my family I would be with them after 2 hours or after 3 hours, whatever the time is. And it becomes distressing for the person to know that, then they have to choose, well, do I get off the call and miss something, or, feel bad about that, where, I'm already tired, or I already have people waiting for me. So I'm aware that I put people in that situation. So some of my facilitators in the past have done that too. And it might be because of our enthusiasm, but whatever it is, it's not really fair. So as much as you can, I want you to stick to the 2 hour mark. And that just means being more disciplined. And it can be hard to be disciplined in these spaces. So some of what I'm covering here is not going to be what you've observed in the practice groups. So just understand that. Okay. Any other questions about anything we've covered so far? Now, the facilitator's personal space, practicing expanded awareness. When you are facilitating, and as I'm talking, I'd like you guys to come into this space right now. I want you to just first come into your 6th chakra space, and you can just put your hand on your forehead and be behind your hand, and just check in with yourself. And then just take a step to your crown chakra. I don't want you to come out of your body. I want you to stay in your body, but be in your crown. And you could think of your crown chakra opening up, but you staying right in your crown. When you're in this space, and you could think of it as being in your crown or being in between the 6th chakra and your crown chakra. You might bounce kind of back and forth, but as a facilitator, you're going to be more in your crown, and that's the space you want to be in. The crown, think of the crown as a king's crown or queen, who they're in charge of the space. They have an awareness of what's going on in the whole kingdom. So they need to know what's going on right in their castle, but also what's going on in different parts of the kingdom, and then also what's going on in different parts even outside of the kingdom, and with different people's roles and their needs, and anticipating things before, and anticipating both positive things and negative things coming in. So that's that's what you're doing as a facilitator. You're in this expanded space, and I'd say I'm saying facilitator, but this is true of a teaching space. I'd say any teaching space, but especially psychic teaching, but you can use what I'm telling you here for any classroom or any group that you're running. So you're in that space, so you have an expanded awareness. And part of this works too, think of it too like your crown chakra is a satellite, or you have a satellite that's opening up, or antennas that are opening up, ready to perceive whatever needs to be perceived within the group. And so you're dialed in not to a specific person, but to the group energy as a whole. And then you're also when you do that, a lot of times your body too, you want to have awareness of your body, because your body is giving you signals on a clairsentient level. It's telling you about different energies that are going on in the space. And this can be happening before you get into that space and during. Now, so this is really cool, because if you stay dialed in, then you're gonna have a sense, and even as I'm talking, like right now, I'm feeling my whole body shift, as you guys might be feeling some shifting too, as people move into these different spaces. So this is really cool. This is how you get to be psychic in this space. So this is different than you coming in as a reader. Now, you may have observed that some facilitators would participate in the reading alongside the readers. What I would say to that is that I'd say you can tune into the reading here or there if you would like to. If everything else is going okay, you've got the system running, everyone knows what they're doing, everything seems to be good, and you're just sitting there. If you would like, you can tune in as well. But what I suggest is that you tune in on a crown chakra level. You should not be getting sucked into the reading. Getting sucked into the reading would be where you're listening to what everyone is saying, the story of it. You're trying to read along. Don't do that. Because then when you're reading along, you're set, when you're using your clairvoyance, you're very focused. And not that you can't still, I said you could be in between your 6th and 7th chakra as a facilitator, but that still is different than like being really honed in on being in a deeper trance state, being honed in on your flowers and auras and colors. When you do that, it narrows your vision because you're focusing on things, you're probing things, and it narrows your vision. And it's not how, as a facilitator, you don't want your vision narrowed because you have to be aware of the whole group. So if you want, you can tune into the reading, here or there. What I like to do is if I'm at that space, like I'm just sitting there and, I might get bored kind of easily. So I might say, okay, well, I want to see if I can very quickly on a crown chakra level, just tap in, and what do I get right away? Like what just comes to mind, or can I get a really quick image if I want to do that? Or a quick download or something. Occasionally, it may just naturally come while I'm sitting there. And then I'll share it. But so I would say, no, 80% of you should be engaged as the facilitator. Even 20% of you might be too much if you're getting into the reading. Just every once in a while, if you want to tune in, you don't even have to ever tune in or participate into the reading itself. If you know every single thing the readers are saying and the whole story of the person and everything the person is saying, and you could recite that, then you were probably too dialed into the reading itself and not paying attention to the reading space. And, I don't want to say that you're going to be sitting there reading the readers, but there's this concept of a reader's reader, and it's more like that, where you're wanting to make sure everyone is having a chance to speak. So you're handling the structure, you're handling the dynamics. Is everyone having a chance to speak? Are the newer people, if they're not speaking, you can call on them, or if anyone hasn't spoken in a while, encourage them to speak up. Hey, what are you looking at? If they say nothing, there's never nothing. They're doing something. If they were checking their phone or something, that's one thing. Sometimes they won't admit that. But if they're like, oh, I just am not getting anything, you can encourage them to refocus. or even just to come up with a color or something that they can speak about. Or you can say, I'll call on you in a couple minutes. So making sure that everyone is having time to speak, that no one's monopolizing, that's what you're doing there. So in addition to sensing the energy, sometimes there's really difficult energies in the room, whether because of what the volunteer is bringing or maybe energies around them. So, are the students sitting in an energy of invalidation or pain or fear or something like that? You want to measure that by tuning into that, by tuning into your body, getting a sense for things. If you feel like someone in the group is really struggling, you could, I'd say don't sit there and read them in an intense way, but you might just see on a crown level, can I just real quickly just send a hello to this person that isn't saying anything, and maybe just send an energetic hello, or just ask, okay, is there anything that person needs me to say or do right now? Please let it come to my mind, to let me know, is there anything I could do to help them at the moment? And don't assume, they may be quiet because, again, maybe their dog had to go out and they're not even on the phone anymore. So don't look at just because someone's silent as that means they're having some kind of big, huge problem that you have to take care of. But these are all the things that you're paying attention to. And if you just have it as the practice that you're going to be in your crown chakra when you get started, and that you're practicing being there, and like, think of it like when you're in your crown chakra, even right now, as I move myself up to mine, I feel almost like I'm looking up and out. It's like being in a tower and you could see the whole view instead of when you're lower down. And then the thing is too, that you're going to get lit up. You're going to, and if you're paying attention, if you're in your crown chakra, you're also paying attention to your body and its signals and its emotions, as you move through energies, your own, you may react to an energy, your own issues are going to come up big time, especially if you've never facilitated a group or ran a group, or you're kind of new to this stuff, or a little shy or something like that. All of your stuff is going to come up big time, most likely. Not that we, are, not that I'm saying we want it to, but it will. So that's the other thing, is that you need to stay really present and know when you're getting activated, and understand when, and of course, when you're getting activated, you're also in the thick of it. So your mind is reaching out to, like, oh, what's going on here? Is someone doing something, bad, or you might be judgmental. You might feel insecure. It might be about yourself, or it might be about some other problem that you're seeing. If you're in any kind of, there's a problem here, other than with the technical system, if there's a problem with the technical system, then yeah, that's a problem. But if you're in any kind of space during the practice group, like, oh my gosh, I'm really mad about this. If you get mad, if you get angry, you want to check and see, like, okay, am I matching an energy that's part of the reading? Is the volunteer mad? Is someone mad about them? Or am I mad? You might suddenly get mad at something a student does. So you want to check in, like, okay, well, why should I be mad at what a student is doing? They're a student. So, yeah, so part of being in the psychic space is also being aware of your own self getting lit up, and then clearing it instead of falling into, this is a problem, I have to solve this, this is not good. Needing to just get back to your crown chakra. So that's how I would say, it doesn't really take much more to do that than to be in your crown chakra, center yourself there, check to see that you're there. You want to be grounded as well. Now, I want to just say here, so what are you doing during the reading? Again, you're being in your psychic space. You're monitoring the pacing and the timing, like we talked about. You can go in and out of the reading. listening here and there and then paying attention to other things going on, but don't go in so much. There's been times where I had the tendency, especially early on when I wasn't doing readings professionally and I was just so enthusiastic about reading, it used to be like really hard for me to want to facilitate and not be part of a reading. That got easier once I started doing readings all the time. But what I would find sometimes I had to do was just, okay, like everyone's doing really well here. I'm getting too sucked into the reading, so I'm going to totally take my attention out and I'm going to go, just meditate, or I'm going to read a book for 5 minutes and then check in or something like that. I would purposely have to make myself go do something else and then come back. But I don't mean like stepping away. You know, I'm still, part of me can still hear them, but just not to get sucked into the reading too much. The other thing is, you as the facilitator, you're in a position of power, and the position of power means that because you're the leader, so you set what happens in that space. And if you are getting into the reading too much, then the people are gonna, there's gonna be an inclination for the students to defer to you, to let you do that, to for the volunteer to start to see you as the desirable one to listen to, because maybe they see you more as the expert. So you also want to, make sure that you're not, that's another reason to not get too much into doing the reading. Now, I just want to speak to that too, that occasionally, you see all sorts of psychological dynamics here. And so a volunteer will sometimes get, someone will say something that rings really true for them and that they have a strong match with, and they'll get kind of fixated on that one reader. They'll form like a bond where they're like, oh, I like what that reader just said. And they'll want to hear more from that reader. Or they might do that with you as the facilitator. That's way more likely to happen if you're really heavily involved in the readings. And of course, even though I said this isn't a professional reading and the volunteers know that, they still would love to get as much information as they could. So if they can get you to be telling them things, that it's real easy to get sucked into that. Or it's easy, this doesn't happen too often, but you might have a volunteer start to kind of fixate on one reader and say, oh, I liked what they said, could they say more? Well, sure, that there may be more for that reader to say, that's fine, but just be aware of that can kind of happen. And, by you calling on other people or saying, okay, let's hear from so-and-so, you can even that out a little bit. Okay, any questions about how to hold your space, how to be tuned into yourself, being in the crown chakra? Any questions around that?
Deborah?
Yes.
Hey, it's Sean Marie. So I do have a question. I'm not 100% clear on the distinction that you're making about how exactly we how exactly we are tuning in to sort of like the flow of everything, but not like I very much understand that this is not the place or the time for the facilitator to be doing any sort of an in-depth reading or even really a reading at all. You described maybe just a quick thing here or there, but I just really want to understand a little bit more about isn't it important at times to maybe sort of listen in a sense, like what if there are some people who are not familiar with the rules and they're going to start talking about you know, going off on a long thing of astrology or going off on a long thing about a tarot card, or, you know what I mean? So so it would be sort of like listen on the surface, but don't get clairvoyantly pulled in. Is that the distinction you're making?
Right. Your attention is on the readers more than the reading itself. So if you're paying attention to, okay, this person just talked and now this person's talking and now, okay, this person just, you know, they've been talking for 5 minutes. So like you're focusing on the students and what they're doing and not getting into the whole reading. And as long as you're not going to get sucked into the whole reading unless you're telling yourself you're going to read too. So otherwise you are listening to what the students are doing and, you know, the timing and pacing and, you know, looking to see if anyone needs help or things like that. That being said, there is a in-between point. You want to stay balanced with that. You're as a facilitator, you're not a police officer. And for some of you, it's going to be, you know, whether we call them control issues, whether we call them being, some people are more laid back or more just kind of let things flow. Other people are more, you know, kind of right there, more directive. But you want to not go overboard in controlling the situation. And this is really important. And this is something that, as I'm picturing it, there's like a middle point. So you're paying attention. If there's something that's repeating, you know, like someone, let's say someone like one time, like kind of, maybe they're talking longer than, you know, is maybe, it seems like maybe they're going on, you know, a little too long. Okay, that's okay. But if it happens again, or other people, sometimes one person will kind of do something and then another person will, and another person. So you sometimes, like if something happens once, you could kind of let it go. It's just up to you. But if it's an ongoing, if it happens again, or you're noticing other people doing it, or then you can step in. So it's not that you're there to police it and make sure that that everyone's doing everything right. It's just, if you start to really see a trend going, things kind of getting derailed or stuck or something like that, then, you know, you can jump in. But because if you get too much into like, you know, okay, this person has to do it like this, or they're, you know, I have to be on the lookout, then you might start to get into the student space. So that's the other thing about, if you're aware, like you periodically check in, where am I centered right now? Okay, I'm going to come up to my crown. Do I have you're using your tools. So do I have my separation object up? You know, where's my aura? Am I like in the student space, or am I giving them space to do what they need to do? And then just every once in a while, you know, I'm paying attention. I might say something or do something, but not like monitoring them so closely that your own energies get intermingled with theirs, or that because this is the thing, like, especially again, some people, we all know that some of us we have different personalities. Some people have their auras way out there, some people close to them, some are very outgoing, some are very shy. This all has an impact in the space. And so some people are going to have to be more assertive, and that's going to be their challenge. Some people are going to have to hold their energy back and make sure there's room for everyone else. And because everyone's in a psychic space, a really loud person can be heard loud. So, you know, not that you want to get paranoid, but as facilitators, but you know, maybe we could call it your energy signature, or just you don't want to be so present that all the people can do is think of you even when you're not talking. And that can happen sometimes. So you just want to, those of you that, let's say, have larger personalities, tend to be more outgoing or gregarious, you'll have to make sure that, or tend to have your auras out, you'll have to make sure that you're giving people the space to have that space and, have a space in between. Those of you that tend to be a lot more passive and where it's harder to speak up or harder to be direct, you're going to have some challenges with this too. And, maybe not so much energetically, because some people, they live their whole life being very, very careful to not energetically step on anybody else. And sometimes it is important to especially because, depending on who's getting the reading, who's there for the reading, and their self or the different beings involved with them, sometimes things can get out of hand if the facilitator doesn't have the ability to, say, hey, let's get on track here, or I'm noticing this, or, let's do this. So this is where you get to learn about all of yourselves. And there's not any better way of being one or the other as far as what your natural inclination is, but you're going to get to see in this space how that all plays out. And, I'd say for everybody who's going to facilitate, set your intention before you, just like before a reading, you can set your intention before you go into the practice group of what you want to work on during that time. It might be an energy goal. It might be a psychic goal. Because again, you may not have really had a chance to operate on what I'm calling a crown chakra level of just having it. It's like in a ubiquitous knowing, like it's really calling forth the ability of instant knowing, claircognizance. You just know something, or you just get a sense of the timing, and then also tuning in on that psychic body level as well. So you're getting to practice a whole new skill set as a facilitator in this space, being psychic, but also very aware of your own stuff that comes up. The same stuff that comes up when you're doing a reading and can pull you out. That's the thing. Your students, the students in these groups are going to be getting their own pictures, the things they're lit up on, the things that are getting stimulated for them are the same things that happen for you guys, because you're going to have strong matches with them. So you could be working, we could call working your pictures, working your space, the matches that you have, even if you don't even know. I mean, you'll hear people say things in the reading, even if you're not dialed in that closely, you'll hear them say something and be like, oh, that kind of sounds like me. Or you'll observe something in the students that you can relate to within yourself. So this is why being in this space, if you use this space in a way as whether you want to call it a self-healing mode, a mode of getting more insights into yourself and clearing whatever needs to be cleared, then you're going to really be able to use this space to progress, on your path, whatever your path is. Okay, so then let me just see what my other slides are here. So because of that, the students, who we can also call readies, they're like your spiritual kids in that space, but more like teenagers. So, they'll talk back in different ways, some of them. But I'd like to think of it as kids because, kids don't know better. Like if you can have more compassion for kids. So that's why I'm using that analogy. So, just because they can't always help themselves, in the same way I could say the practice group is going to be 2 hours and I am determined it's going to be 2 hours. And then here we go 2.5 hours. I did not mean for that to happen, but a part of me was not able to control myself, to get control of the situation, and in the same way, you might say to somebody, well, whatever you're recommending, and they may have a hard time doing that, or getting past what they're trying to get past. And so you want to just remind yourself that it's not that they're not trying. Sometimes they just can't. They're stuck in their pattern, or whatever it is. So just understand that. And if you start to get irritated with someone, sometimes it might have to do with, well, I don't think that'll happen because I'm giving you these instructions that you have permission to intervene. And I do want to go into some different ways of how to intervene next. And then we'll start to wrap up this discussion. So you can intervene. I'm thinking of when my friend Michelle Schultz, she first started facilitating on Wednesday mornings a few years ago, and she had never done anything like this before. And I remember one day she called me up, and she was after a practice group, and she was really irritated, and she was like, could you believe that this person did that, this student did this, and this student did that, and I'm just kind of tired of it. And I was like, Michelle, what have you been doing to let them know that that behavior isn't helping themselves or other people? And she was like, oh, can I do that? So I realized I hadn't given her the training to know that yes, she could. So it got to the point where she was getting irritated because she hadn't expressed to that person, that these are the parameters, this is what we're going for here. Now that's not, and once she knew she could do that, things evened out. Every once in a while, though, I do want to say what you might run into, especially being a new facilitator. This doesn't happen very often, but there could be a student who has their issues, they're lit up on something. Could they possibly go into competition with you? Where they're like, oh, I know what I'm doing here, you don't, or they, usually it's where they're already lit up by the energy of the reading, or they just came in doing something. This really happens very rarely, but just saying that it could, or they might compare you. If you're a new person, they might compare you to, say, Iris, or say to myself. That could happen. That if they're in a space of competition, that could arise, and then you might feel some kind of something going on between yourself and one person. Again, the way to handle that is first check in with your space. What's going on here? Why are you having this feeling here about this person? Was something just said? Did something just happen? Check yourself, like, am I being balanced here? Am I being too much in their space? Sometimes if you're too much in someone's space, they'll get annoyed and say something or do something to kick you out. I'm sure that's how I was when I was in those other classes I talked about, where the facilitator was bugging me, because essentially what would happen is I'd be reading someone, or a group of us would be, we'd be in a great space, and every 2 minutes the person would pop in and start having us look at our own things and commenting, and we were getting constantly interrupted by these facilitators. And I made it known that was just not okay. But the problem in that case too was I had already been teaching for a number of years, and these facilitators were brand new people who obviously needed some instruction. So that scenario wasn't good. But my point here is that occasionally something will come up. When it does, just check in with yourself first. Even if the person did something rude, what in yourself is getting lit up here? And you can always, let's talk about just quickly, and then I'll go into the system here. and if we need to, we can, get together on another day too to go over some of this stuff again. But just what are some things that you can do? This is important. Let's see here. Once you find your space, you can speak directly to a person who's doing whatever they're doing. Hey, why don't you, like, let's say they start trying to ask the volunteer a bunch of questions, which we want the volunteer to mostly sit and listen until the end. But let's say a student who's reading starts to put everything in a question form. You can say to that person, you know what, let's just set the rule that we're not going to ask the volunteer questions and they can give feedback later. Now, every once in a while, they might have a question that would be helpful for them to just ask. So it's not that the second someone, if they were to ask the volunteer a question, that you have to jump on them and say that's not allowed. Kind of assess the situation. Maybe like if they're like, I'm seeing these kids around you and I'm seeing like a boy and a girl and, can you just tell me, do you have kids? If a question like that is okay, as long as it doesn't suddenly open up for everyone else to ask a question. So let's say someone asks that because it helps them to, just know, okay, I'm on the right track here. But if that's it, then that's okay. But if they do that and then 3 other people ask for verification of what they're saying, then address it. But you could say to the person, if one person keeps doing something, just gently say something to them. That's one approach. So one approach is you speak directly to that person. The other approach is, even though it's only one person doing it, you speak to the whole group and then that person doesn't feel singled out. So you say, as a reminder to everybody, let's do this. Or I'm noticing, like, let's say you notice the energy of competition, and maybe you noticed it because you started to feel like kind of competitive or something, or you started to feel a little bit out of sorts, like some power dynamic going on. Well, and you have a sense maybe it's about one particular student or reader. You could say to the group as a whole, I'm sensing that there's like the energy of competition here. Let's just release that and, all unite, let's all unite on this color or come together on a crown chakra level, or let's all say hello as spirits to each other. Even though it may just be, you're like quite sure that there's something about one particular person where it's being generated, or the volunteer, maybe it's somehow related to them. Again, we don't have to get into blaming, but I'm just saying that sometimes you might notice it's this particular person, but you could have the whole group work the energy, because it may be other people are also lit up on it as well. And then you're not singling out the person. So that's something took me a while to figure out, but I'll do that, and that will sometimes work good. The other thing you could do is called have a group energy break. So they're in the middle of the reading. If you're noticing like more than one person struggling, the energy just seems like slow or low and people are barely talking, again, you could tune in, like, what's the energy that's affecting the group? Like, what, is there something here? Maybe sometimes it's that the volunteer has some heavy duty issues that they're dealing with, and people are starting to tune in and seeing that what they have to say is going to sound negative, and so they don't want to share it, or they're afraid to, or there's different energies that will make it so you're sitting there and no one's saying anything. So you can tune into that energy, and you might say, okay, let's take a break. We're going to do a 1 minute energy break, and I want everyone right now to check in with yourselves, ground yourselves, look for, is there a color of energy here that is making it hard for you to, or this is what you could do. Like you could say, look at a flower, let any energy that is stop energy or is making it, this reading, feel hard for you to come into that flower, and then look at it and then drain it out. It doesn't really matter what you do. The main point is that you're having them tune into themselves, acknowledge that there's something they're struggling with, release the struggle, get some detachment from it, and then they're all gonna, and you, by acknowledging it, like, hey, there's something here impacting all of us. Let's take a minute break, use our tools, and then we'll all come back. And then when you do that, right before you do that, you just let the volunteer know, you're letting all of them know, but to the volunteer, you're like, okay, sometimes like our energy drops a bit and we need to lift it up. So we're gonna take a break for 1 minute. No one's leaving. We're just going into a meditation space. You can relax, and then you lead them through whatever for a minute. Maybe you don't even choose to say anything. It's like, everyone take a break, ground yourself, and ground out anything you're getting stuck on, and then come back. Or, where are you guys? Are you guys in your 6 chakras, or did you go out somewhere, or are you in another part of your body? Just reminding them of their tools. If you're not sure what to tell them to do, just tell them to work on their tools for a minute, get their energy running, recenter themselves. You don't have to lead them through like a very particular meditation. Just remind them they have tools which they learn in class. They've all, at that point, at least learned to ground and run energy and center themselves. And coming up to the 6th chakra can be very helpful. So they do that, and then you have the readee say their name again so you can tune back in, and then you resume the reading. So that's always available to you. I would say, use that. Maybe during a reading, you can do that once. If the energy was really tough, twice. Don't use it more than twice. Once, I would say, would be a good. It's really, even if things, well, if things are just flowing along really well, then don't bother. But it is good to remind the students, especially the newer ones, to use their tools when they're getting stuck. So doing something like that is really helpful. I suspect that maybe the facilitators haven't been doing that in too much. I'm not sure. I don't tend to go in and listen very much, or I could listen to the recordings, but I don't have time for that. So which, there's pros and cons, because then something might start going on in the groups that I'm not really aware of until I hear about it from others. But just so you know, I'm not like, sitting there, I'm not like sneaking in to, assess everyone. I'm not going to be like, listening to recordings to make sure how you did things. We'll know how things are going, because you'll know how things are going. I'll get feedback here and there from other students. And again, I'm not, I want to be diligent. And sometimes I have to say, I've just kind of let the facilitators do their own thing, because I just didn't have time. So I'm trying to be like a little bit more on top of that, just to make sure that the facilitators are trained. But I'm not going to be like, assessing your every move or anything like that. No, by no means. If anything, just the opposite. But I'm also going to want facilitators, to talk to me and, let me know, if, let's say, you felt like something didn't go well, let's say you had some kind of issue you weren't sure how to deal with, of course, get in touch with me and let me know. Or if you feel like there's maybe something like that just needs to be addressed with someone, or just a particular, student to just look out for with something going on. This very rarely happens. I have to say that the only thing that's come up recently to my attention is that some students are starting to, use tarot cards or Google things, or kind of like that. That's the only thing that, I've heard in quite a while. So I don't want you to think that, facilitators are coming back and reporting on this student or that student. Not at all. But if you feel like you need some help or direction, you can, come to me for that. Okay, so we really need to get to the system, and I know you guys haven't had a break. As I'm pulling up the system now, and let me just get a feel here, or what I could say here is this. Is there anyone here who at this point feels like you don't think you're going to be wanting to facilitate anytime soon? Or maybe you don't want to hear about the system itself. If so, you can just hang up and then shoot me an email and let me know. I'd like to move to does anyone have any questions while I'm pulling up the system?
Well, hi, Deborah. It's Jean-Marie. I just wanted to say that I don't know what everyone else's schedule is, but I had initially blocked out 3 hours, and I see that we have not gone through all of the slides. And so I just wanted to say I'm available to stay just so that we could get all the training done at once, if that is amenable to everyone else. But, you know, whatever works for everyone is fine for me too.
Okay, thanks. How are the rest of you? Is there, if we did go for extra time, because, you know, I think I kind of initially thought 3 hours, and then I thought 2 hours, and I'm not sure what I put out there. Is there anyone that wants to learn the system but would need to leave in 15 minutes? Okay, and the other thing is, if we could get through, you know, most of the training on the system, that would be good. Now, I will also, this is being recorded, and so if you do have to cut out early, then or before we're over, then do so, and you can listen to the recording.
Yeah, Deborah, this is Darcy. I am 100% on board. It's something I'm interested in. Unfortunately, I do need to cut out early though.
Okay.
So is this going to be posted where I could go back and listen to the rest of the session to find out about the recording and everything else that you're going to be teaching?
Yes, definitely. And I think also what I will do is, so I will go through the whole system thoroughly now, just because we do need some facilitators even for this week if anyone's available. So I'll go through it now, but then for anyone who has to leave or just, you know, once is feeling like they need extra help with the system, which I could totally understand, I can set up another time to go over the system with people. So it may be necessary to have a review section, so I'll do that as well, in addition to making this recording available. So whoever can stay, let's do that. And why don't we do this then? Let me just see what other slides I had to go through. Okay, I'll just take then the next, let's say 10 minutes to go through these other slides, and then we'll have just like a really short break and then come back for the system.
Okay, and then my second question is, so how would how would you determine, or would you let us know who and when you would want us to facilitate these sessions, and at what times or dates?
Yeah.
Or how would that work? Okay.
Yes. And what I'm going to want to know, and I think to do this in an organized way, maybe I'll create a little survey to send out to you guys, to find out like how often you want to facilitate, when you're available, things like that. And then I'll send you a link to the survey so I can all get it together in one place. And I'm also gonna, yeah.
Okay. That's perfect. And again, not to be as obnoxious. Sorry, everyone. I've been trying to keep notes of everything that you've been writing, but I'm a huge note taker, and I just like to have structure with, especially when it comes from you. So I like to see, your breakdown of everything that you've written, just as a reminder. Although some of it has stuck with me. If there's any way that can be posted as well, because I do want to be involved. And I think that this is a really positive thing, not only for myself, but for others. And I am 100% on board anytime, and I'm always available. So
Okay, great.
I want to be a part of it. Yeah, for sure.
That'll-
And I want to do it in the structure and in the way that you're looking at, which I am in total agreement with. But I want to make sure that I'm doing it in the proper way and learning the system mainly too, so I can get everybody there to start with. So unfortunately, I do have to go just because I have family in town. So.
Okay, well, thank you for being here. We'll make sure you get everything and that you get on the schedule as well.
Okay, thanks so much, Deborah, and love and kisses to you and everyone else. And I hope to talk to you and hear from you soon.
Yes, definitely. Have a good day.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye, everyone.
Okay, so let's just see what else we have to cover here. Okay, some common issues. I'll be showing you how to use your mute button. You don't want to let things go. Your job is to make sure that things don't get annoying for other people. And as you already know, in a, I want to make sure. Yeah, it looks like we're still recording. Okay, so as you already know, it is naturally somewhat distracting, sometimes very distracting to be reading with other people. You've probably noticed one thing I sometimes suggest for someone who says that they're getting distracted is to not fight that, but they can look at what other people are looking at. If someone has an interesting image, they can look at that image and oftentimes get the meaning of the image. So that's something you could suggest if someone is, sitting there saying, I'm just getting too distracted, or I stopped looking for myself and just am listening, just remind them, okay, well, you can go back into your reading space and, feel free to look at other people's images. So you can do that. But let's say somebody is having sound issues, like there's noise coming from their system. You don't want to let that keep happening, and you're entirely within bounds to gently say, and I say gently because people get embarrassed about their sound issues, but hey, we're hearing a lot of background noise. Can you mute yourself? Again, you might just be able to say that to the whole group. If you might try that first. Can everyone mute themselves? But if that person still doesn't mute themselves, you can point that out to them specifically. Hey, so-and-so, there's a lot of noise coming from your thing. Can you please mute yourself? Or let's say they can't mute themselves for whatever reason from their phone. You mute them, and then you would just say, you know what, this is there's still this distraction here, so I'm going to mute you, but when you want to speak up, just hit 5 and I'll unmute you. So you're going to have control over a mute button, and you can do that to people, and that's going to be important. Okay. As far as doing meditations, it's going to be up to you. I'd say the opening meditation, it's helpful to have everyone ground to get into, I'd like you to at least have people ground and find their space in their sixth chakra, because they'll be more likely to be neutral there. You can get creative with your meditations, or you can just pick. I would say though, what I'd like you to do is help the people come into their body and into their psychic space. So don't lead them on a journey that's going to take them far and away from their body. I would say whatever you do, like you could do a breathing meditation. It doesn't have to just be what we do in class, although I definitely encourage you you could do exactly what we do in class, as far as the grounding, the running energy, calling back their energy. You can practice leading people through those meditations. You can get creative with them. You can change it up and just have them focus on their breathing. I'd say have them be in their upper chakras. Don't have them do a big meditation on their lower chakras, because then they're going to do the reading from their lower chakras. If you do a meditation that it might be like the most fun, exciting, shamanic journey, but you might take them so far out of their body that's the space they're reading in. So whatever space you put them in is likely going to be where they do the reading from. So just be aware. And, if you're in doubt, then just do what we do in class. But know that you can also do other things as well. With your voice, if you haven't led people, maybe you guys can tell me how many of you should be able to, there's a little hand next to your name so you can raise your hand. How many of you have led others in meditation before? If you have, raise your hand. Okay, so it looks like a couple of you have. A few of you have. Okay, so whether you have or you haven't, this is a good experience. This is a good opportunity to have practice starting to lead people through meditations. I won't go too heavily into it, but first and foremost, watch your own voice. Again, this gets to some of you are always in a meditation space, and the way you talk is very meditative, and you're not going to have to adjust how you talk almost at all. Others of you may exude so much enthusiasm and excitement, and have the kind of voice that will wake people up and pull them into an alert state, which a lot of times is what's needed in a group and fantastic, but it may pull them out of a meditation space, out of a trance state. So the more deeper the students get into a trance state, the more flow they'll be in. And just for you guys as readers, if you're finding in your own readings that you're getting too analytic, it's probably because you're not getting into a deep enough trance state. Same thing with the students. So when you're leading others, the way to get them into the state is for you to be in it. You can't get others into a deep trance state if you don't at least go into a deep state yourself. So this is what I do when I'm leading. I'm meditating when I'm leading others through meditation. Milton Erickson, I didn't realize this till I just saw a video about him and his life. He would do this in front of groups and students and he's really credited as having made the greatest contributions to meditation in the 20th century, to hypnosis. But what they showed him was anytime he was in front of a group, as soon as people started to ask him a question or he'd start talking, the whole time he wasn't looking at people, he was looking down he would talk for 2 hours sometimes just looking at the floor. And I thought that was weird at first, but then he explained that he puts himself into, he self-hypnotizes himself, or he did, he's no longer alive, but he would self-hypnotize himself as he was talking, because really he was intuitively wanting to get it, just so he would know what to say to his students or audience. He put himself in that state. And so I thought that was really interesting, because I've really found that if you're leading someone through a meditation space, let yourself get into that space. And you know what? You might start to fall asleep or lose track of things, but that's okay. It's more important. It's really not about what you're saying. It's about the state of being that you're in, and then putting the other people in. If you don't use the most perfect words, nobody cares. If you stumble on your words, if you start to fall asleep during the meditation itself, no problem. It's a sign that you're going deep, and they're going to be able to match you. But if you're like really alert and you're all over the place, or something like that, then they're not going to be able to go deeper. But then once the meditation is over, that's when you want to get more alert, so that you can be aware of the overall dynamics. So you don't want to, put yourself to sleep and then just sleep during the practice group. So you go deeper during the meditation, and then come up and be alert in your crown. And just slowing down your tone can naturally help. If you tend to talk fast, then intentionally slow down. Like right now, I'm slowing down as I'm talking, and I'm not slowing down is a good technique, because you're not changing your voice. I have a remote viewing teacher who I totally love. We're friends, and she's a great teacher. But it was so funny. I had been in this training with her already, where we didn't do any meditation for like a whole week. And then she's a hypnotherapist too, and she wanted to lead us through a couple meditations. And she started to use this voice it sounded like someone trying to act like a hypnotist. Like, you are getting sleepy. That's how it just struck me that. I don't know if she sounded like, if anyone else thought this, but I just started laughing. And we were in an in-person class, so that wasn't good. And then anytime I just called it her meditation voice, and I told her about it afterwards, but I always laugh. So it's not necessary, unless if you're someone who's the extreme, who just really needs to change their voice. You don't have to change it dramatically, just really slow down is probably, and maybe talk in a little deeper tone. That would help as well. Okay, so let's see if there's anything else about that. Any other questions that anyone has about any of this? Okay, I think I've covered all my slides. So let's just take like 5 minutes, and then we'll go into the system. So you'll just come back here. I'll just mute everyone, and let's just come back in like 5 minutes. Okay. Let's see. This is a little strange because it looks like I'm somehow showing up on the system twice.
Yeah, I noticed that, Deborah. This is Jean-Marie, and I wondered if it was someone else. At first, I thought it was you, but then one of the hands that got raised, I think, was on that line, or no, it was somebody. I know what it was. It was someone who was chatting, and it said Deborah Katz, but I could tell it wasn't anything that you would have said. So I think that there might be just a little error there.
Let's investigate a little bit here. I wonder, how would someone sign on as me?
Yeah, like if you look in the chat box, it says from Deborah Katz to everyone, survey is a great idea. And then also Deborah Katz to everyone, I'm good. And I just didn't think that I know that you don't usually chat during class. And so I was like, oh, that must not be Deborah.
Can you guys all take a look at the chat and just let me know who might be showing up under my name there?
Okay, so just to confirm, you only chatted once, right? In the beginning, you typed hello, right?
Oh, it looks like it's Maureen. Let's see. Let me, wait, let's see. Maureen.
Well, it's interesting. Maureen is showing up separately.
It's me.
It's Maureen.
Yes, it's me. I don't know how it happened though.
That's weird.
That's great. I love it.
And I'm not hearing an echo.
In 7th site. So I was signed in and then clicked on the link and I don't know.
Oh, maybe that's how it happened. That's interesting.
Yeah, because I can manage the site. Yeah, so somehow it's using Deborah's name. I don't know how.
Imposter.
My computer, it has my name, which is weird.
Okay, so no problem. I just wanted to get to the bottom of that. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is share my screen, and I'm going to take away my PowerPoint for the time being. You know what? Now I'm getting this echo. All right, hang on. Let's see if I mute that. Is that any better? No.
Maybe you mute.
Oops. Okay, I muted Maureen under your name. So Maureen, if you need to, Maureen, you might have two windows open. Not sure. Okay. If you guys need to speak up, just unmute yourselves. So what I'm going to do right now is do a new screen share. And hang on just a second here. Okay, so I'm going to go. Can you guys see my screen? Just want to make sure if you guys can see my screen right now. Jean-Marie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You sure can.
Okay. So the first thing I did was go to Maestro Conference. And then I'm going into my account. You guys are gonna, whoever's facilitating will be actually going into my account. And I'll give you guys the username and password as we get used on the schedule and stuff. My username is Deborah Katz at Yahoo. And I'll just give you my password once we're ready to get started with you guys as facilitators. Because it will be having to sign, it's as if you're here signing in as me. So, but what you can make a note of is that it's maestroconference.com, and then you go to my account, and I don't know if this would help if I put it in the chat box. You know, and I can also put this on the slides too. But so you go to maestroconference.com and then click on my account. And then username is DeborahKatz@Yahoo. This is my regular email. And then I'll give you a password. And then so you click on login. And then this is the second page that will come up. And then there's these options here. And know that for the practice groups, we're doing everything in audio. So the system, when I first joined, all it was audio, and then they started to come up with other features, but some of the features don't work so well on an Apple computer, so I don't use them or don't need them. But anyway, you're going to come to this page, and the first thing, this is the default page, so you see scheduled. The practice groups are under reservation lists, not scheduled. So there's Thursday morning, level 1, level 2. Those are the classes I've got here. Actually, that needs to be deleted, but okay, but go to reservation lists. And then you'll see the ISC Wednesday practice groups. And then you go into that. And I'm just going to show you, if let's say you just go directly to conduct, that means you start the meeting. You can click on edit if you need to edit something, or you can click on, if you clicked on the word itself, it would take you to a page where there's different settings here, but you're not going to need to. There might be a couple things in there you need to know as far as collars and pins, but I'll get to that later. So you don't need to go into anything. You can just usually, again, so you started out on this page, it just landed you here. You go to reservation lists, you're looking for Wednesday practice groups, and then you click conduct. Okay, so now this is the page you'll see that tells you you've just opened up the class, but you're not opened up yet. And this, I don't know why it's on these settings, but these settings are not the settings that you want. I'm going to explain these settings, but the first thing you're going to do, these are audio settings. Well, you can do this right here. Set the default state for callers entering this conference. Now, I want to explain a couple things here. The audio is everything because this is an audio call. And the settings, if you look here at, we'll have your name as a presenter, which will allow you to, well, you're already allowed because you're in my account, but your name will show up as a presenter, but everyone else's will be a participant. Excuse me. You want everyone on public. Public is the main room. It's where all of you are meeting. If public is not selected, people can't hear each other. Obviously, if people are on mute, then they're on mute, but don't do the mute button yet. Your entire concern now and at every moment, not to like make you paranoid, but you always want to make sure the settings are on public first. And then you can mute people. But what you don't want is to be on breakout unless you're intending people to be in a different room. So breakout is breakout groups. A breakout group is a separate group that meets in a separate room. And so if you're on breakout, then different people are going to be in different rooms, and they're not going to be able to hear in the main room. Any issues about sound are going to be related to these settings. And you can see it's not complicated. There's not a lot of settings. But when you first get on, your overriding concern is that everyone can hear each other together in the main room. So what I tend to be almost kind of obsessive about this because problems happened in the past when I didn't understand this. So I'm going to click on public, and I'm going to, and I'm just looking at this because there's some settings that can get pretty particular. Now I just realized, okay, so this green button should be lit up and should say allow to enter call, but the problem is that we're not on it. So this is what I'd like to do. I didn't really have this all thought out, to be honest. But what I want to do, I want to call in, and some of you can also call in if you're able to just call in on a phone. So, we're already talking on our computers through the Zoom program, but if you guys can, I'm going to click on info here. So these tabs are important. So you haven't even opened up the dashboard yet. You're trying to get there, but because enter call isn't activated, it's not activated because one person has to be in. Like you need to call in as a facilitator. You're going to have to call in to activate it. Although that being said, other people, let me explain this. You're activating it so you could work the dashboard. However, anyone that has their phone and PIN is essentially already on the teleconference call. So what you're doing on the computer here is you're activating it so you can manually work these buttons, but you're going to be calling in on a phone like you would in the same exact way you call in for class. And so what I'm showing you here, like when I'm in class or facilitating, this is what I'm seeing and having to do. But let's say one of you or all of you called in 5 minutes early. You guys could be talking to each other. You could be on the system, but I'm not getting to activate this until I call in. So right now what I want to do is, and if I want to see the phone numbers, okay, so you guys already know the practice group call-in number. So it looks like Yari got in, and thank you, Yari. Now look at this. Now since she is the first one in there, I can click enter call, and now I'm in the dashboard. Now what we can do to play around with this, if more people want to call in, because this is the practice group number, so you can call the phone and PIN you usually use. But look at this. I don't know what that is right now. So I'm going to click on settings. So this, and you can get the same info on this tab. There's entry, but there's info. And I have everyone who is registered, their name, PIN, and phone number right here. So again, I clicked info. It was on this screen, but I clicked this little tab here, and I was able to get these numbers. So if any of you can do this, why don't at least a couple people call in, and they could be hearing each other too. Not that I want you guys to listen to me mostly, but if someone, that'll help if more people can call in right now. So is this big enough for you guys to see the numbers? Like you could even just pick a number if it's not the one that you normally use, or and dial in on the phone, but don't get off the computer here. Does that make sense, you guys?
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't have the number or my pin handy, unfortunately.
Can you see my screen with the numbers here?
Oh, let's see.
And it doesn't have to be your name. You can just pick any of these.
Oh, okay. Can you stop it for just a second and I'll just pick something?
I'm going to go get my phone too. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm just calling in too, because if we have some names show up, it'll be easier to demonstrate some stuff. Okay. Uh-oh. Let me just see if I can mute this here. We might start getting feedback. And we don't really need to, if you're on the phone, I'm just gonna let myself be on the phone, but keep the phone away from my ear. So if you're getting feedback, just like mute your phone or put your phone far away from you and just listen to me here. But just know that you would be on the phone. Okay, so now I'm entering in the call.
Deborah,
Yes.
do you intend, I'm not hearing you over the phone, I'm hearing you over the computer. Is that what you intend?
Yeah, I'm just going to talk
Okay.
over the computer. I just want names to show up. Oh, Maureen was there for a second. I just want names to show up. So if anyone is talking through Zoom here on your phone, then you can't do this. It's just if you were just purely talking over your computer, then you could do this. So we have a few names here to work with. And that's all I needed people to call in order to have the names to play around with. So, so just know there's the people on the phone, there'll be the students, and then you'll be on the phone, but then you're going to need your dashboard open to be in here. So now that you're in here, even though when we first signed on, there was that window that popped up, if you click on settings, this window pops up. And again, there's the entry window or info window, and you can get that to pop up by going to settings. And then you get it. So let's say you needed to get your own call-in number and PIN. This is how I get mine. Like at the start of class, I just look up mine in this little window. Or if someone like says, oh, I can't get in with my PIN, you could always look it up really fast and email it to them. Okay, so we're in here, but now I want to, again, the thing I have to be concerned about before anything else, the most important thing is to make sure we're all on the right setting. And I'm not sure right now that we are. So I'm going to click on everyone. Now there's different ways to do this. You could do individually. When I click on each name, I see it all goes to public, so we're in good shape. Here's an important trick here. At the top, this says all callers, and towards the right, you can select who you want to click on. If you want to do something to everyone, that's the fast way. So when I first get onto the call, it's like, oh, I want to make sure everyone is on the public setting. Because let's say I don't know why this happens, but sometimes like someone called in and by default, they were put into a breakout room. That happens. So the way to fix that is really fast, like click on everyone, they're all selected, and then you go to public. And if you're not sure, click on the individuals, just make sure everyone's on public and they can hear each other. So, and then you're fine with going to mute. And again, like let's say suddenly there's all this noise, and you want to mute everyone. You can select everyone. You could select just the participants and not yourself, or you could just put everyone, go to mute. Now everyone's on mute, but let's say yourself, I think I signed in as Amanda. Let's say I have to talk. So I'm gonna just click on me, Amanda, and click on public. So I could be heard, but they're all on mute. So that's, and then breakout is if you're going to split into two groups, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes. But I want you first to see what you have to do. So if you just always remember, everyone has to be on public. Let's say somebody falls off the call. They, their internet went out, they fell off the call, they called back in. Occasionally, for whatever reason, they'll go to breakout. If you see anyone in breakout, understand they cannot hear you if you're on public, they could hear you, but you wouldn't be able to hear them, because it's like the public mic is also like a loudspeaker. Think of it like that way. Like, so if they're in a separate room, they can hear you if you're on public, but they can't hear, but you can't hear them.
Deborah?
Yes.
Hey, it's Jean Marie. From this screen, how would you be able to tell if someone were to be on the call, but they were in the breakout mode? How would that represent it? How would you see that?
Okay, good question. Let's put Yari and Maureen on breakout and look at what you see here. What do you notice?
Well, I noticed that they're on. Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Well, okay. So when it's lit, when you have the blue highlighting, then the orange breakout only is there, and
No. The blue highlighting is just whoever's selected at the moment. But look at the little microphone next to their names.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah, it'll be a lighter color. So if we put Maureen back into public, it goes dark. So the breakout room color is a light gray. And again, if you can't remember that, it doesn't matter. You just select one and put them in there, and then you see. So Maureen's in the breakout room, and now she's not. Yari still is, because she is gray. But if I click on her, I could put her in the public. So that's the difference. In the same way that mute, the red button is mute. The red with the X going through. That is mute. And now I put Samantha into breakout. Oh, that might be me. Okay, so Samantha is in breakout only. And again, the breakout rooms, you'd only want them in there if you've broken the groups into two, and I'll show you that in just a minute, how to do that. The other important thing, and Jean-Marie, did that make sense?
Yes, it did. I had another quick question, if that's okay.
Sure.
I know that sometimes when we're on, excuse me, when we're on the call, you can tell when there is noise on the line of a particular participant. And so how does that come up on this screen?
Okay, so let me try to talk here. Hello, I am talking now. Can you see the green button lighting up? Did that work? Hello? Okay. Okay.
Oh, yeah. And Yari's making noise.
He's making noise. So it's coming up green. Oh, maybe mine wasn't, because I was.
No, I saw it for you as well.
Okay. So, and then I think we just lost her. Okay. So yes, when someone's talking, it's green. And so if there was, let me just see if I can tap. I'm going to be quiet for a second and just tap. I'm just tapping and it's kind of going in and out. So that's how you can tell, like, if there's some staticky noise or if someone's kind of moving around or something, background noise, it'll light up as green.
Oh, thank you so much. I've always wondered that.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes people are like, oh, is she just being psychic there? No. So, okay, so then there's the muse. If you think, look how this screen, it's divided into 3 portions. So you've got this center screen that tells you the participants. Now look, this is the hand feature. You know how I'm always saying raise. Oh, I'm sorry. I just had the text come in. Okay, if you raise your hand. So the people that are on here right now, let's say everyone hit 1 because I'm asking you a question. If you're happy to be here, hit 1. Okay, so 2 people are, okay, everyone's happy to be here. So look at how the hand lights up with the number. So you can use this feature as the facilitator. You know how in class I'll say, well, if you need anything, hit 5. If you want to be called on, hit 5. So if you ever, as a facilitator, let's say you can either just tell people that during a meditation or during a reading. If they don't want to speak up, you know, about an issue, that you can tell them to hit 5. Or you like once in a while, it might be appropriate. I'd say in general, keep people off of mute, let them mute themselves on their own phones. People can hit 6 and it will mute them in the system. Like for example, if I hit 6 on my phone right now, this 6 just put me on mute. I didn't do anything except on my phone I hit 6. So you can let people know that they could mute themselves with 6, but most people know how to mute themselves on their own phone. That's a good feature though, because, well, I'll get to that later. But what I wanted to say here was that if you, oh darn, what did I want to say? I lost my train of thought. Okay, so with the raising hands, let's say you had a lot of people on the call, and for whatever reason, it wasn't going to work out to break them up. You know, one mode of facilitating is where people have to raise their hand to be called on. I'd say don't do that overall unless you have a particular reason for wanting to have it more controlled like that. And then you could say to the people, hit 5 if you want to be called on. Otherwise, we'll mute you. So there's like things you can do like that, but in general, you're not going to want to do that. Okay, so then to take the hands down, I'm going to click on everyone and see this button over here. It says down. Now, let me just show you here. So I started to say that the screen is divided into 3 portions. And over here on the left, this is where the polling takes place. So you see 4 hands up, even though you saw it over here. But this will show you, because some of this program is designed to sometimes handle like hundreds of people on a call. So it's pretty cool, because you could you could have 1,000 people on a call and say, okay, if you're happy to be here, hit 1. If you're not, hit 2. And then it would show you the percentage of people that responded in a certain way. So that's why this was designed to then, I could say, well, all 4 people, it shows right here, have a number 1 lit up. If someone else has, I can hit number 2, and this shows 1 person has number 2 hit up, and it gives a percentage. So that's kind of cool. The other thing you'll notice is the music. You know how this is, sometimes I turn on the music during break, because if you're silent for more than like 5 minutes on this system, it will kick you off. So there's a couple ways to deal with that silence problem. I wish there was really, this really is kind of a pain in the butt, especially when you're leading people through meditations. So like, let's say I wanted people to be silent for 10 minutes to do an exercise. I still have to, I'll come back like at 4 minutes and just say anything, just so the system won't shut me off. So you just want to be aware of that. I don't remember what the cutoff is. I think it's more something like maybe 6 or 7 minutes. But I'd say if it seems like there's going to be more than 4 minutes of silence, you could just speak up. Like you could even just tap on the phone or something so that, or just say a couple words, and then you'll be okay. If for our breaks that are 10 minutes, I'll turn on the music. That turns it on. That turns it off. Can you guys see where the music button is? On the far left.
Yeah, sure can.
Yeah, sure can.
And then, so that's what's over here. Then for settings, again, you click on settings and that brings that window open if you want to see people's call-in information. Okay, I think I'm ready to show you the breakout rooms. But does anyone have any questions about this yet? About anything I've talked about? And if you do, just speak up because, or let me just go back to my Zoom page. Okay, so it looks like the people that are still here, you guys are still following me here. Okay, I'm just going to put the hands down. So now I want to talk about if you had a lot of people on the call. Well, by a lot, you know, you'll kind of have to judge it. The more experienced people you have, the more you want to break them up. You know, if you have like, let's see, maybe 6 people and yourself, you don't have to break it up. But if you start to get really a long list of people and you know there's some experienced people, you could break it up and have the other people go in the other room. And then you could go back and forth. But what you would need to do is appoint someone to be a lead reader who could get the group started. And also, usually there's just one volunteer who's assigned. So what you could do is say, well, would anyone here like to get a reading from half the class? And then you stick half the class with whoever wants the reading in the other group. That, or they could take turns and a couple people could get read. You know, you can be flexible with who gets read in the other group. You could also let people volunteer. Like you could say, if anyone would be okay with, you know, doing readings on another student who's in here, and you go in the second group, or if you really want to, be in the main room and read the volunteer, let me know. And so, how could people let you know? You could do a poll. So I could say, whoever's willing to, whoever really is wanting to get practice reading a volunteer and stay in the main room, hit 1. So a couple of you on the phone right now, hit 1. Because then I'm going to use this to divide you up. Okay. And then the other people who are okay going into the other room, let's hit 2. Or one of you hit, let's see, one of you hit 2. Okay, that's good. So let's say, and then as the facilitator, I might be like, okay, well, and let's see. Okay, okay, so there's 2 of us with, okay, no one else hit a button. I just want to have it, okay, there's 2 of us that are, okay, what's going on? Hold on a second. Maybe this might be me messing myself up here. Okay. Okay, every time I do this, nobody hit any buttons right now. That's weird. All right. there's two of us who have twos and one of us who have ones. And what I would do is whoever was going into the room, I might say, okay, well, again, we need one person to be the lead reader. Who am I going to pick? I might say, does someone want to be the lead reader in the other room? If no one volunteers, hopefully you guys will start to know like who's the more experienced person. But you could just say, I really need someone who's a little more experienced to be the lead reader. And then they're going to be the ones that just kind of get the color, the reading color going and direct things a bit. Essentially, in that respect, if you're alone as a facilitator, the lead reader just like helps out with that, and then it makes it so you can spend probably more time. You want to spend more time in the main room with the reader. But you know what? I am telling you something. Okay, I need to tell you something different here. If you're going to split the groups up, you can't stay in the main room. You're going to need to create 2 breakout rooms because if you do it in the main room, they're going to hear you. The other group will hear what's going on in the main room. So we're going to have to create 2 breakout rooms to do this. So group 1 would be the room with the volunteer. Group 2 would be the room with just the students. And as the facilitator, I'd say spend most of your time in the room with the volunteer. So now I'm going to show you how to break up, because all this did was indicated the hands of what their preferences were, but you're all still currently in the main room. So there are some different ways to do this. I'm going to show you the way I usually do it. So come back over here and you're going to see the word breakouts. It's on the left. It's underneath the polling and the music, so it says breakouts. I'm going to click create because I need to create breakout rooms. I click on it and now my breakout window comes up that lets me manage things. Now there's some different ways to do this. I can break out by participants. You could change, like you can do an overall setting. I'm going to show you how to do the overall setting, but then you could individually change each person. So I'm going to click on, let's just say everybody, participants, that's everybody. And then it says into breakouts of at least 2. It says I'm about to create 2 groups of 2, and I have a choice. I can do it randomly where the system will decide who's going to be together, or since I did the poll where I said who wants to be in this room or who wants to be in the other one, I'm going to click on this, keeping hand positions together when possible. And this always seems to work. So the people that hit 1, I want to be together. The people that hit 2, I want to be together. So instead of randomly, I'm doing keeping hand positions, and then I hit commit. And then it goes back to here. And now what I'm going to need to do, now everyone's still in the main room because I haven't changed the sound yet. What this did was it sectioned off people, but it hasn't changed the audio settings. The audio settings are the last thing that gets done. So let's look at this. We have Amanda and Yari in breakout room 1, and then there's Samantha and Maureen in room 2. And you still see their hand positions, but that's just going to be confusing, so I'm going to put those down. So the 1 and the 2 shows the rooms that they're in or will be in. But the thing is unless the audio is selected, we're still all together. So you guys will remember in class when I've broken you guys up, I usually say, okay, I've got this set, count to 10, and then you'll be in your groups. I usually say that because now at that point when I'm saying that, I've got it divided up. I know where people are going, but it's time to put the sound settings, and I want to make sure I get this right. So I'm going to take everybody, and I'm going to click breakout. And at that point, they can talk to each other, but if I'm, let's say if this was me, I think I was Samantha, let's say this is me and I'm still, if I hadn't picked all participants, if I had just picked, what was the word here? Let's say well, you want to check with yourself. Where are you? Like right now I'm in the main room, and because it's, well, it's green, but if I wasn't talking, see, it would just be black.
So Deborah, how do we know that you're in the main room? Is that because the main room is, oh no, let's see, I was going to say, is the main room number one, but it's not, because you said you're in the main room, but you're not number one.
No, the numbers of the rooms don't matter at all, and they'll keep going up consecutively. I can show that to you. But look at the, I just muted myself. Look at the microphone again. The microphone will tell you where people are, because look at my microphone, or Samantha's microphone, who's me right now. That's a darker color. And then you could also, if I click on the name, it's highlighted. So that's why it's blue when the blue is the highlighting. So I'm highlighting my name, and look, it says public. But if I highlight Maureen's name, look, it's a gray microphone next to her name, and it goes to breakout. So it'll show off to the side here. I could go to Yari, she's gray also, and breakout. Amanda is gray and breakout. So I'm looking for a couple different things. I want them all to be on breakout, but I know I wanted Amanda and Yari to be together. And so they're in room 1. And right now Maureen, because I left the room, she's in the room by herself, room 2. And so she's not going to be able to hear them. They're not going to be able to hear each other. Since I'm in the main room still, on public is where everyone hears. And I know there's no number next to me, and it's dark. And this is same public. So anything I say in this room, other people are going to hear. Now, how do
Deborah?
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt, but just to be clear, so there are a total of 3 rooms. There's the room, the public room, and then there are these 2 breakout rooms for a total of 3 rooms?
Right now.
Correct.
But if we had 20 people, you could have as many rooms as you want. So then the number, if I clicked again, it would be room number 3. And then if I clicked another one, it would be room number 4. So yes. And then what you could do as the facilitator, let's say I'm Samantha. So I want to go check on room number 1 with Amanda and Yuri. Sorry, I never pronounced your name very well. I want to go to their room. So how do I put myself in their room?
Do you click on their names?
Well, I want to walk myself into their room. So I'm going to click on myself, Samantha, and then I'm going to click on room. Okay, come down here, move into breakout. Do you see on this side here? This whoever I'm clicked on, the name comes up. So it says Samantha Dean, who is supposed to be me right now. So you can see my name is here. It's got a little bit of, it shows I'm on the public mic. And I want to now move into, I'm in the main room, but I want to move into room 1. So I selected myself and I put myself in room 1. Oops. How did I just do that? I just put Maureen wait, I put Maureen in. Okay, I'm going to create a new breakout. Okay, Maureen's in room 3. I'm clicking on myself, and then I'm clicking on room 1. Now I have to look here. Now I'm in room 1. It says Samantha Dean, room 1. So the settings are on room 1, but I need to make sure that my audio has not been changed. It doesn't automatically change when I go into room 1. So I need to make sure I put myself in room 1 by clicking down here on 1 with them, but now I need to go to breakout so they can only hear me. Otherwise, even though I went to 1, if I'm on public, everyone can still hear me, but I can't hear them. So if I want to talk to just them, I go to room 1, I go to breakout, and now they can only hear me, I can only hear them. And then as the facilitator, but you know what, I want to go visit room 3 now. So I'm going to go down here where it says the room 3. See, when all the people leave, like everyone left room 2, so the next breakout room I created was 3. So I'm going to put myself, I click on myself, I click on room 3. You can see again here it says Samantha Dean. I'm in room 3, but it says and I'm in breakout. I was already in breakout before, so I'm still going to be in breakout. If I want to say something to everyone though, let's say I want to make an announcement. Everyone, we only have 5 minutes, and I want everyone to hear that instead of having to go into individual rooms. If I put myself on that public mic, everyone's going to hear me. Otherwise, I'm going to go back to breakout. And if I don't want everyone to hear me, I can click mute. Now, sometimes in class, what I'll do is if I'm like not in anyone's room at the moment, like there's something I'm taking care of in the main room, I'll put myself on public so I know I'm out of their room. Or no, I'll put myself in the main room. So Samantha Dean, I'd click main room. I'm gonna just go hang out in the main room by myself, but I had to select main room. So I click on myself, I select main room, and look, there's no numbers next to my name because there's no breakout room. I'm in the main room, and I'm gonna put myself on mute so I don't bother anyone. And it just kind of takes me down here. So now I'm just hanging out in the main room. And if I want to go back into room 3, I click on 3 here. It stuck me in there, but I'm still on mute. I need to change my audio, so I'm clicking on breakout. You know, I would say that unless you have someone with you who really knows the system, if you're not feeling so comfortable the first time you facilitate, you might just have everybody be in one group together, even if it's a bigger group, if this seems confusing. Does this seem confusing, or is this making sense?
This is Yeri. It does make sense. And just to cancel the group at the end, we would click on the breakout dissolve button, right?
Yes, thank you for asking that. Yes, when it's time to come back, when everyone needs to come back, you can just dissolve the groups. But look, it's still the sound. You always, at every moment with the system, want to make sure that it's on public, because I dissolve the groups, but now nobody can hear each other. So we have to make sure everyone's on public. So that's why I say you almost kind of have to obsessively keep checking to see that everyone's on public if you have been moving people around.
Deborah, I think it makes sense, but I also think it's a little bit, it's complex to the point that I'm not sure that I would remember exactly how to handle the whole thing while in the midst of the actual session. So I'm just hoping it doesn't come up soon.
Yeah, it's confusing. Yeah, I think it's confusing. But if you just remember And we could go over this again. There's also tutorials. I can send you guys a link that you could watch the tutorial a couple times about it too. If you remember, even if it gets a little confusing, like when I first started this, sometimes I had to do a few attempts to get people in the right place, and things would get messed up. But you can always start over by, as long as you understand the difference between the microphones, and if you get messed up, just say, okay, everybody, let's all come back to the public one, you know, so just, I'm going to start over here. Let's put everyone on public. And then it doesn't even matter if they're all split up into rooms. If they're all on public, they can all hear each other, and you can always just go to dissolve. So if you can remember where the create button is, and see in this case, to create these, like before I had, you guys had 1 or 2 depending where you wanted to go, but I could easily just go to create, go to participants, and randomly it's going to commit. It just put people, see that for the group numbers, it just keeps going up and down, like for the whole call. I mean, it keeps going up. So I dissolved the other groups 1, 2, 3, and then it created a group 4 and a group 5. You don't care what the numbers are. It's just you want to make sure that people are paired together in the way you want them to be paired. Right now we're all, because the microphone is dark, we're all on public. So again, we're, if we want them to just be able to hear each other, and you'll know too, because if I'm like, okay, you guys get started, and now suddenly I hear everyone talking on top of each other, it's like, wait a second, what's going on here? It's because I forgot to put them into the breakout only mode. So these settings here where it says mute breakout in public, those are for sound only. So it's like the sound functions are different than the create breakout groups. The groups organize, but they don't deal with sound. And if you don't deal with sound, then you can still hear each other. So that's where it gets a little confusing. But as long as you know how to put everyone back together, dissolve the groups, start over, you'll be okay. And, you know, don't get upset with yourself if you get confused or so. And if you're like, for anyone that's feeling nervous about working the system, you know, we can make sure that you have another facilitator with you to help with operate the system when you first get started. Okay, then any other questions about the system? When you're all done and everyone says goodbye, you can just X out, and you just click the X and close out the whole system and hang up. I think that's the main thing. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I need to show you. I'm going to close this out. Again, when you first come in and you go to reservation lists and the practice groups, if you wanted to, you could always look in settings, like if you wanted to check callers and pins, if you needed, you could also get like your pin number from this. I've put presenters in here. I'll be adding your names, whoever's going to continue as a presenter. So you'll have a presenter link rather than what you've been using to call in on. There's
Deborah?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to mention, because I'm not sure you're looking at the chat, but someone, and I think it might be Maureen, was saying that it seems like 2 people would need to facilitate, and then saying also, do we need a practice group for facilitators to get used to the system? And I just wanted to add my voice to that. You know, first of all, I think it'd be really fun to and really helpful and a wonderful experience to co-facilitate with someone, and to maybe even trade off, like, one week someone could do the technical part while the other person is focusing on the group itself. And then you could always switch off the following week. And then I also just want to say that I like the idea of doing a practice session just to sort of give us a real chance to just kind of get in there ourselves and actually use it before sort of the pressure is on with, a volunteer who, I know that they're not expecting perfection, but still it's a member of the public. And I know I probably speak for everyone else, you want to be able to do a good job and put a good foot forward for the International School of Clairvoyance. And so I would hate to make a mistake or goof it all up technically. So I just wanted to throw that out there because it looked like somebody else was thinking the same sorts of thoughts that I was.
Well, I think that you guys working together, that will work out well with, it's trading off one person leading it and the other person helping to work the system. That would be good. If it turned out that you did right away need to split into two groups, then you could do that as well. Designate one person as like the one that's going to lead everyone through the opening meditation, but then the other one would go off with the second group. As far as you guys practicing, what we could do is just, you guys could get together, a couple of thoughts here. Because really, basically, to practice, it would just be like what I was just manipulating, but you would manipulate it. Unless you're talking about just having a whole practice group where you, but I think that part of the thing here is I'm going to need somebody my problem is that I have to be in a class myself. I have 3 classes at the university I go to on Wednesday. And so I need to find someone or a team who would like to just jump in on Wednesday.
Hi,
And
Deb. This is Yeti. I am very comfortable with the system, so if you need someone already this Wednesday, I'm totally happy to do it on my own too.
Okay, that would be terrific because you've used this before. Is that right?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay, so you'll be perfect to go this Wednesday, and then and then that gives us more time with the practice. So and maybe, so I'm not sure as far as like if Jean-Marie, if you were thinking like of doing a whole practice group run without the volunteer there, or if you just want to if you guys want to be able to sign on as presenters and play around with it.
Well, I actually think that there would be benefit to doing, it wouldn't have to be, the full, 2 or 2.5 hours. But I think it would be beneficial, but because I think that part of this is pacing and sort of learning how to, continue to elicit like really good participation from everyone, while also, you're obviously going to be watching your clock. And there are just so many things. I mean, even if you didn't have the technical issues of Maestro, which, I mean, there have been times when volunteers have fallen off the calls and there's all sorts of stuff that could rattle you. But even if you put all of the technical issues aside, there are just still so many variables that you're dealing with, even in just doing a very nice professional job with facilitating a group of people in a case like this. So, I would absolutely favor a practice session, and someone could just volunteer to be the volunteer and to get a reading. And it's not that it would have to be so long, but maybe just a practice. It could be a collapsed session, but or it could be a full length session to give people a sense of the timing and the pace.
The only thing with that though is if we have, then who gets to practice being the facilitator? Because see, I'm just thinking that the best way to do it, I mean, it's one thing if you want to practice the system, but the thing I want to say, I would say if there's 2 people I understand what you're saying, that it would be nice to be able to do it without the volunteer. I'm just thinking some of this is just the only way you're going to get the pacing down and everything is just by doing it. And
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense too.
I mean, we could set something up, but then it just seems like the thing is, it's not like the stakes are high in a practice group, right? Because the students are practicing, so the facilitators are practicing too. And everyone needs to understand that. So if things are getting messed up, the only problem is if people have some kind of expectation that there's not supposed to be things messing up. But you know, not, I mean, we want to have things together as best as we can, but I'm just thinking this is not a case of that people have paid a lot of money to come in and everything has to be done correctly, you know, to a T. You know, if you go over too long with the meditation, so you have to cut the reading short a little bit, because you can practice this 10 times and still run into, depending on the situation, these different elements are gonna change a bit. And again, even though I said 2 hours, you know, if you go over that, it's not like alarm bells are sounding and, you know, your head's going to get chopped off or something, you know, and then you'll see each time like, oh, okay, well, you know, we went this long for this and then we didn't have time for this. So next time I facilitate, I want to make sure that I make this a little shorter. A lot of this is just going to be trial and error. You know, it really is. But I think, I mean, I understand that there is going to be anxiety with working the system. And when you first bring it together, there's a lot of different things. So I would just say, pair off together. I'll give you guys this. It's kind of hard to practice on this unless you have some other people. You know, if you guys want to just get together, we could get together again. And if you guys are signed in as presenters, then I could say like, okay, Jean-Marie, go click on here and put these people into this group. So what I was just doing, you could have command of the mouse, and that might help too. If you're, you know, if I say mute, hit mute, now hit public, now go into the groups, kind of to test you out. So I'd be happy to like set up another group with whoever wants to, you know, do the technical part. And we could do that. I think that would be the best way. And then, you know, what you could do for a meditation, like if you know you're gonna have 10 minutes for a meditation, if you feel like you want to practice it, like I would say, you could either like get with just one person and practice, but again, what's going to happen, see, and this is a little difference with styles. Like I have a couple of friends where if they lead someone through a meditation, they write out every single word, and that's a very different style from mine. So I understand, because when I say like, why do you need to write anything down, just wing it, see what happens, they get very anxious. So, you know, whatever each one of you needs to do, if you feel more comfortable, like, you know, practice giving a meditation, or just get together with each other and say, okay, I'm going to lead you through a meditation, you lead me through one, you can do that. But, you know, after you're comfortable, I mean, you may every week change up a meditation. You might try out something different. And I know everyone on this call is, you know, more than capable of thinking on their feet. And you know, I'm not just, you know, having anyone facilitate. So I'm, you know, confident with whoever's facilitating is going to be capable. There's just going to be a learning curve. So just make sure you give yourself permission to have errors, and to let everyone know when you come on, this is the first time that you're working the system, and you know, you appreciate their patience. Any other comments or questions? Okay, well, so then let's just do this. I will be getting in touch with you guys with a survey, and I'm just using a survey because it'll just collect when you guys think you're going to be available or how often you want to join in. And then Yari, maybe I could, excuse me, why don't you just hang on for a minute and I'll say goodbye to everybody else. So I'll be in touch with you guys.
Okay, great. Thanks, Deborah.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Guys.
Yari. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for all your attention. Okay. So Yari, so then you'll be available for this Wednesday.
Correct. Are we talking just the morning group or both morning and evening?
No, just the, just the morning group is good.
Okay.
In fact, let me see. That is okay. I think probably Naomi is going to facilitate on that evening. So yeah, why don't you plan on facilitating on Wednesday? I will send you the call-in information for so you could get into my account.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I will, well, probably some of the people who are here will just maybe come in to be, oh, there you are. Nice to see you.
Hello.
So, okay, so then I'm thinking we could have someone join you as facilitator, or we could just have, some of them might just call in just to be practicing as readers. Do you have a preference to do it by yourself or to have a partner?
I think I would be more comfortable by myself, because when I have a partner, then I would be stressing out that it would mess up my system, you know.
Yeah. Okay, I totally get that. That's kind of how I am. So we'll just have you be the facilitator, and we'll welcome them if they want to come and read.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. And is there anything else you'll need from me? I'll email you my password to get in.
No, I think I'm good. Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity. It's gonna be fun. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you're gonna do this. This is terrific. And then you could let me know too, like, do you you can let me know like how often you would want to facilitate.
I am free every Wednesday, so I don't have any schedule constriction on it at all. So it's based on how you need me. I would be delighted to do it all the time. It's something that I'm just very grateful that I had the opportunity to be in.
Okay, terrific.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll kind of just get a feel for the other people too.
Right.
But that is great, and it sounds too then like that would help, because you could definitely help, like if we have a week where some other people are new, you could help them out with the system.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be totally perfect, which makes me feel really good, because it's, normally I wouldn't have scheduled a class at the same time as when these are going, but the way my schedule is at my university, I do all my classes on Mondays and Wednesdays. So it just falls when the practice group is. Okay, great. And then you could definitely let me know if you have any questions before or after or anything like that. And I'll also give you my cell phone. You might have it, but I'll give it to you, and I'll just keep on my phone so I could get texts during the group in case anything, happens that you need some guidance on.
Cool. Yeah, I'm sure it will work out just fine. But thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, thank you. All right then. We'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Have a great one. Bye-bye.
Bye.